I was thinking about the notion of schar ve'onish, of reward and punishment in Judaism. And I understand why the rabbis embrace the idea of purgatory. Because I think purgatory, for those listening, the Catholics did not invent the notion of purgatory, Jews did. The idea that for God to be a just God, there has to be a place of punishment and a place of reward. Why? Because if Hitler has the same outcome as Mother Teresa, that would be unbecoming of a good God. However, the notion of eternal suffering, even though that idea does appear in Midrashim, the notion of tzoa rotachat, the cauldron of boiling excrement, that heretics suffer forever. But that's not the most popular understanding. I think the most popular understanding is the notion of some sort of purgatory. In other words, a place that not everyone goes to, but a place that you suffer a little bit and then you're let out. Now, I'm not saying that I adopt the whole notion of hell or purgatory, but I could understand that notion a lot better than the idea of eternal punishment, because that just makes no sense. So it seems like the rabbis were trying to explain punishment, onish, in the most sophisticated way possible. And this is why they introduced the notion of purgatory. Just because the notion of a Yetzer hara is really non-existent. I heard a rabbi give a class once, and he said that he asked his rabbi, how do you overcome your Yetzer hara? And he says, I don't really have a problem with my Yetzer hara, it's my Yetzer tov I have a problem with. And it's true. No one really does in the vast majority of cases, unless you're a psychopath. The average person doesn't do bad things in this world knowing that it's the wrong thing to do. People do bad things thinking that it's the right thing to do. And I think that that's the most sophisticated approach. If you're going to demonize all your enemies, like I think most Christians, when they talk about Muslims, are like, oh, well, Allah is Satan and they worship the devil and all Freemasons are Luciferians and all this. I mean, honestly, even people who belong to the Church of Satan are atheists. They do this out of spite to in some way make fun of religions because they don't even believe in the devil. They don't even believe in God. So it seems that what there is a misguided Yetzer tov, a misguided good inclination. All these individuals, the people who created the gulags and the concentration camps, they thought they were doing good. From that perspective, is there a place for what people call the Yetzer hara? No, absolutely not. And so I've come to the conclusion that ultimately, in people's minds, that people don't do evil for the sake of doing evil. No, well, they do evil because they think they're doing good. But anyways.
I'd like to hear your opinion on it. I don't think you ever spoke on this. I could be wrong. I don't come here every week. At least I try to come here every week. You did mention boiling excrement as the punishment that we face.
That's just a medrash.
Medrash. It does talk about it. It does talk about it in the Talmud, in particular, Gittin 57a.
Well, that's what makes it a medrash.
Oh,
a medrash, in the Talmud, it's typically known as agadah, a story. So anything in rabbinic literature that's not of a legal nature is considered agadah. Later on, agadot were referred to as midrashim, but it's just folklore and legend. So if it appears in the Talmud, it's still a medrash. I mean, it's an actual medrash instead of just something that the rabbis made up later. Now, Midrash Rabbah and most of these books were actually written in the Middle Ages, even though the stories in there are of Tanaim. And I'm surprised that if a lot of the Midrashim we have nowadays weren't written 300 years ago. It's all pseudo-picker-foot. It's all nonsense. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, there's a story of one of the greatest sages of Judaism who was in the process of converting, Okonos, and he practices seemingly necromancy, and one of the person he resurrects, besides Titus and Balaam, was supposedly what they considered JC. What is your opinion? Is this passage referring to the Christian JC in excrement, or is there any way to actually know who it is?
I don't know. It uses the word Yeshua Notzri, but I don't know. If that was the case, if it was Yeshua, like he existed around 200 years or 150 years before the Christian Messiah. Most rabbis say it's not, by the way.
Right, that is the consensus, yeah. Right.
But it could be. I mean, only because it's there, that doesn't mean it's true. Okay, and the Talmud also says that if this person was the Christian Messiah, then he wasn't crucified, because regarding this guy, Yeshua Notzri, he was killed by the Sanhedrin.
That's a good point, actually. what's even deeper, what's even more troubling, or well, a little troubling, is that how could this convert? I mean, one of the greatest. I mean, he was a brilliant mind. How could he do such? How could this story exist? Practicing
It's not a true
necromancy.
story.
It's not a true story.
Of course, it's not a true story. It's just a story.